all of you. Welcome to the third day of our commemoration of Bengal partition through films. When we made the schedule of the fest, there was a logic to every day. We wanted to make every day unique in its own way. So the first day was about partition classics, the second day was contemporary films, the third is primarily documentaries. But what is special about it is that we will have two documentaries, one from West Bengal and one from Bangladesh. And finally, tomorrow we'll have two Bangladeshi features and a masterclass which will round of the fest. The first documentary we're going to show now, we are very happy about that, and we are very proud and privileged to have the filmmaker with us. Supriyo Sen's Way Back Home, which was released way back in 2003. It is already a very cult film, probably many of you have already seen it. It was the first documentary on the partition of India and much awarded. What is special about this particular screening is that in this fest since we are screening 3 films a day and some long ones, there is not much time and scope for panel discussions. But this is one of the exceptions. We will have a conversation between the filmmaker Supriyo Sen and Professor Bhaskar Sarkar, who is an eminent partition film scholar, and he is currently chair, Department of Film and Media Studies at UC Santa Barbara. I would request Bhaskar and Supriyo to please come here. And if you can just give me 1 minute, I need to give something to you. It is in the other room. So just 1 minute.
Bangla lab story, is that okay?
Absolutely.
With everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So, very first question. Before I ask the question, I have to say it's a great pleasure to be here. Anna already got me involved 2 years ago with the Partition and 70 conference. That was brilliant, but I'm really thrilled to be here today because when I came in 97-98 to do my research on partition cinema, I quickly realized that there was almost nothing, except for the usual Ritik Khatro, about 10 films altogether in all of India, which is pretty amazing till then. But I also realized that sometime in the late 80s, probably after Thomas, and maybe before that, because Govind Nihalani was the assistant director for Richard Attenborough's Gandhi, and he was asked to shoot those riot scenes. That's, I think, the genesis of what then came derisively to be referred to as the partition industry. So suddenly everyone was in the game, right, making movies. But there were a lot of films that happened right then. So nothing almost for 40 years, and then boom, from the late 80s, too many films and TV shows about the partition. But most of them for me were very problematic. And I was getting a little exhausted looking at all those films, which often reproduce the violence without any sense of how you move beyond the violence, which often brought up the pain and fell into the trap of politicizing it in ways that have brought us to this moment in this country. Not Supriyo's film. And when I finally turned this dissertation into a book a few years later, I remember thinking that his film was the film that I wanted to end with, because there was no other film other than maybe Naseem that spoke to me in the same way. So those are the last 2 films that I talk about in my final chapter. So it's really thrilling to, I've talked to him about this before briefly, but I'm going to start with a very basic question. How did you get to make this film? What took you there?
First of all, I want to say sorry I came late because I realized that the whole program will start at 3. So I never be late to any program, any meeting.
No, but you're not terribly late, it's fine.
Yeah, so Maybe it was the whole idea of partition was within me from my childhood. I mean, the way the stories were told about in our families, by our parents, relatives, neighbors. I grew up in a Udvastu colony, so I know the atmosphere there. So the language, the culture. So I grew up in them, and I used to listen to the stories from mostly my mother used to told me. I mean, it was very romantic, a beautiful, picturesque memory about the homeland, about people living together. Whereas my father's narrative used to be very close to the official narrative, the patriarchal gaze also. It's more about violence and more about the mainstream political discourse and everything. But what ingrained in me is mostly my mother's take on partition. I have seen many refugees became very bitter after partition, although the left movement lamented quite a lot into that anger among our community, but still there was like subversive bitterness remained for a long time, which is now surfacing. So, but my mother was a very special person. So whenever she used to mention about partition, about the lost homeland, it used to be about the nature. It used to be about people living together. So that spirit was quite driving force in me to explore the narrative of partition, which we never get from the mainstream discourse in the textual history and the academic, even in the academic discourse. So, and for me it was also a very emotional kind of thing. I mean, it didn't affect my, like we are three brothers and sisters, it didn't affect that much to my other siblings. So maybe it was, I don't know, maybe the person I am that also, helped me to react the way I reacted through this film. And so initially it was like that. I mean, before going to Bangladesh for the first time, whenever I get a chance to go very close to the border, like the Ichamoti River, Taki, you see the other side of the border. I always used to feel that, okay, that's my homeland, and I cannot reach there. So there was a deep seated pain always I felt inside me. And and when I decided to be a filmmaker, I knew that I'll tell this story. So yeah, that was the beginning of it.
How was it directing your parents, or did you really direct them in the usual sense of the term? For instance, was any scene scripted in any way, or was it that you just took the footage and I know you had a plan that we'll go here and we'll go here and do that, but was the film put together at the level of editing, or was there some kind of scripted sense of?
See, I mean, the way still I make film, it's I try to not to manipulate reality as much as possible. Although cinema is a very manipulative medium, but I try to restrict myself. So the same thing happened with my parents. Of course, the idea of partition was there. My mother always wanted to go back to her homeland. But initially, early days, my father was not that much willing to go. But gradually, when I convinced him that it is also about, recording your voice, your pain and anguish, whatever you have inside, it may offer you a moment of catharsis also. So they were willingly became the part of the whole journey, and I never ever let them do anything. I just took them to places, and I am an atheist. I don't believe in any sort of maybe some sort of spirituality. I believe in nature, but I don't believe in any religion or any god. But I believe in the spirituality of cinema. So it happens like this. If you are honest, if you are serious, if you are dedicated, magic happens in front of you. So when you see the film, you will see so many things happen in the world that you cannot write about. But that happens if you keep on going. Like I used to work on a project for 2, 3, 4 years, and then only magic happens. It's not like hit and run, go and shoot something and make a film. It's not like that. So whatever intervention I had it during the editing process. So even when we came back, because there was a lot of hassles and difficulties. Like when, after 1 year of effort to get a proper shooting permission, when we realized that we are not going to get the permission, then the government changed from Hasina to Khaleda Zahmat coalition. And it was like a very tough time when we were crossing border. People were telling us, didn't you find a better time to come here? And there was riots going on in the rural side, especially in Bodisha where we went. Yeah.
It wasn't magic happening, that the process was not scripted.
Yeah. So there are many things that they couldn't tell during the journey. It was dangerous also. They were very cautious. So when we came back, we took some of their interviews. Even in those kind of very restricted, safe, secure situation, I never asked them to tell anything. It was like they're expressing they're telling their stories, expressing their anger, joy, nostalgia, whatever. So yeah, and at the editing level, of course, you intervene as an author. That's why I believe documentary is more author's medium than fiction, because it reflects what kind of human being you are. Yeah, that's very important.
So that was my next question. The first half, which you call Abar Ashibo Fide, has archival footage. It has more voiceover narration from you, explaining things. It has those titles that set you up for the historical context. The second half becomes more and more and more personal. All that stuff goes away until we finally get to the end. And how many of you have not seen the film yet? Okay, so I'm not giving out anything more. I really want to respect the narrative's art. It's really, really phenomenal in this film. So it's a very personal kind of work, right? So I was thinking, it could be called an autobiographical documentary. It could be called a first-person narrative, and as you said yourself, you sometimes feel like it's even more of an author's medium than form than not fiction film. So what is your sense of a documentary? For instance, some people think that these days increasingly you see documentaries with reenactments. That's not quite documentary. Some people say that. What is your take on these kinds of mixing of fact or footage, actual archival footage versus enactments? And this is not reenactment. It's a kind of enactment.
First of all, I can't differentiate between documentary and fiction much. But that's a different debate. Here, I can tell you, I don't believe in enactment in documentary. So, and I strictly try to restrict myself to not to do that. There are some provocations. Sometimes you predict something, then that doesn't happen in front of your camera, and you tend to push to do something. But throughout my life, this is my 25th year of my career, I have learned it's only if you can wait, you can achieve those moments. In reality, it's not fiction. Fiction, you write it, you hire actor, and you can get great stuff. But in documentary, it's time. That matters. So I don't believe in enactment. In fact, I hate those films. There is a term called docu-feature. I actually hate those terms. And yeah.
Ken Burns. Okay, so as you'll see, this film has this incredible melancholic tone to it, and what's really interesting is sometimes it's the father speaking. I think it was a place near Howrah, right? Where
See,
they lived.
that is a. Now I'm telling everything to the audience before that. That's the problem of having a discussion before. So the thing is, I wanted to create. I mean, when I show them in Kolkata, I wanted to show the claustrophobia of a city and wanted to create the contrast between the place they left behind, I mean, in nature, and which they keep on mentioning about. So it was shot in different places in Kolkata, where I found those kind of, I mean, images which fits to the kind of atmosphere I wanted to create. So that is a manipulation.
But even there, when I saw it, I didn't know that that was not your place. Maybe it was somewhere else. The Lal Cement.
That's not my own house. That's Rajeshri's house.
Okay, but it stuck in my head because I kept thinking as I was seeing this that this is not just being melancholic about a past that's already lost, but it's also melancholic about the present which is about to be lost.
Yeah, absolutely. That is why I choose those kind of spaces.
Yeah. Because how many places do you see with Lal Mati cement? I mean Lal cement. It's really difficult.
This is mad. I think it's not real.
So I think for me this is a way of getting into the next question, which is Marian Harsh, who talks about Holocaust memories and how generations live through certain kinds of experiences, but then those generations die out and the subsequent generations have what she calls not quite memory but post-memory, right? That this is not their actual lived experiences, but they've heard so much about this that they feel like it's part of their constitution, like their own subjectivity. It has really formed who they are. So in that sense, one could say this is your post-memory.
Yeah, although I don't have much interest in academic discourse.
Okay.
But
I have interest in
I
yours.
don't even know what is post-memory because yeah, of course. But I also experienced partition during 1984 riot, during Babri Masjid, and now experiencing, like just few days back I put a post that feeling refugee in my home. So some people thought that I have a fight with Rajeshri. So
I mean, what
it's
is
not that. It's about the general situation where
the kind of endless repetition and endless reproduction of the partition.
Yeah. Also, I brought those connection, like in the film, the connection between 1946 riot to 2002 Godhra. So I also sort of lived partition. No, it's not only about memory and lores, folklores, or it's also maybe in the way they experience it. It was not like that, but yeah, we definitely.
So Wazira Zamindar, another academic, talks about the long partition, the partition that never has ended, but it keeps happening over and over again. Others have talked about an event which doesn't have a clear date, starting point and ending point, particularly something that has such traces, the wound keeps festering over the years. But the post-memory thing is important, I think, because of the way in which those of us who didn't live through the actual experience get a very selective version of it, which means that it is open to certain kinds of manipulation. Those who actually lived through it, they might hate the other community, but they also will remember have very clear memories of how people from the other community tried to save them, right? Whereas we who didn't live through it only end up with certain kinds of memories, and if there's a push to mobilize that politically, it becomes very easy to do that. So that's something that, I think gets really interesting, and you do that brilliantly at some point. I'm not even going to say when in the film. So I wanted to ask you about what is your sense of the relationship between memory and history? You kind of already alluded to it with your mother and your father, actually.
See, I mean, of course, I also try to study quite a lot of stuff. In fact, I have found those days there was not like I started researching during 98 to 99. There was not many stuff around, and I from the archives, from the old newspaper library we used to, I don't know whether it exists or not, in the Esplanade East, I found amazing and very tragic materials. You won't believe. One father is writing to the editor that during the Noakhali riot, that my daughter is lost for 16 days and I don't know where she's. Heartbreaking experience I had during my research days. And I, even from my parents' stories, I didn't know that this was so devastating. And only through numbers like 1 million died, 15 million migrated, you cannot define what partition was, how devastating it was. So initial 2-3 years, it was like to go through and to internalize it was very difficult for me. It was such a huge tragedy, and it was so much suppressed and put under the carpet because of some maybe many reasons. So so initially it was to negotiate with myself. As I say, it is very difficult to make personal films, and when you deal with an issue like partition, even it is not like Holocaust, it's now defined what is black, what is white. Here partition, in case of partition, the same community, sometimes they are perpetrators, sometimes they are victims. It's such a complex situation and such a tightrope walking. One would hardly dare to. It's very easy to make fiction out of this kind of situation, but it's not easy to deal with real life, real situations, and I knew I'll be exposed to many sort of criticism when I finished the film. But generally, this film was well accepted. I mean, it was shown in Pakistan, it was shown all over in Bangladesh, and all over the world. And the kind of reaction I wanted to get, I got it. So there were some criticism from extreme left, I got some criticism from extreme right, I got some criticism, but generally people, especially in Pakistan and Bangladesh, it was like the acceptance was huge.
That must have been very rewarding.
Of course, that's the greatest reward,
Some people talk about partition, not just partition, in various situations of this kind of historical loss and trauma, that there's memory and there is history and they're different. Others talk about memory as being a necessary supplement to history. Yet others talk about something like an entanglement between the two. And I think, which one would you think?
Repeat the question.
So the first one would be like, clear-cut memory versus history, right? History bad, memory good. Some will say, and others will say memory good, but bad, history good. The other would be, like something like a supplement, that memory is a necessary supplement to the official version, that it fills in the blanks, right? It produces corrections. A third one would be that it's even more difficult to say which is right, which is wrong, and these things keep shifting. So all we can say is that memory and history are entangled.
See,
with your film, which one would be
yeah.
the...
See, other than having all those personal stories and certain kind of orientation about how to address the partition memory, I also have gone through the, mainstream official history of partition, and that was not like a very unique kind of representation. There are many interpretations of partition. And in my younger days, I used to believe in hardcore left interpretation of the whole thing. But gradually, I became more close to Gandhian way of interpreting politics and life and philosophy. So if the mainstream discourse exists in my film, that is more of Gandhi's search, especially during the last 3-4 years of his life, that I wanted to also try to make the meaning out of my personal experience during the journey to Borishal. So my relation to mainstream history is more close to Gandhian search for peace and brotherhood during the devastating days of partition. And on the personal level, it was like the memories, mostly my mother's sensibility that guided me. So this was like mixture of everything. My father's patriarchal, urban gaze, my mother's very romantic gaze, along with Gandhi's journey through Noakhali to Kolkata. So it's a amalgamation of everything.
How are we on time? Should we wrap up soon?
Wrap.
Does anyone have a burning question right now? I think you'll be around after the film to ask if there's time.
Sure.
Yeah, I would love to have some more discussion. I'll miss Bhaskar.
I have to leave right after. But one of the things I want, do you want to say something?
No.
Okay, one of the things I want to say is this, for those of you who are historians in the room, this will not come as no surprise, but when we think about history, there is a sense in which in the past, let's call it 1947, there were many futures possible. One particular possibility got realized, and we are stuck in it, right? But we have to remember the other futures that were once possible in the past, and we have to hold on to those possibilities, I think. The promises of those possibilities. I'm not saying, okay, enough, let's get rid of the borders and get back together. That's never going to happen. That's not the point, right? But to think about other ways of living things out as a society. What are those ways that were once probably possible but no longer are? But the fact that they were once possible itself should be something tremendous as a resource, I think, a resource of hope. And I think the film, you'll see, brilliantly manages to convey that to us by that.
Yeah, my last words is actually I realized, after traveling to Pakistan, Bangladesh many times, having great friends from both these countries and understanding world history, meeting many people from all over the world, I realized that we have to reconcile with our past and try to live in peace. That's the biggest thing. So during this journey, I also try to figure out which are the common points where we can reconcile and live peacefully. So that was another very strong intention of my journey.
Thank you very much. We're now going to the film, and after that there's going to be a tea break. Those who wish to ask questions to Supriyo or discuss it further extraordinarily moving film. This is an extraordinary moving film. Actually, it was made so many years ago, but I want to thank Shukriya for making it, and I want to thank the audience for coming. I think a lot of us will have seen in Shukriya's parents a reflection of our parents, many of our parents' desires and wishes. যারা ওপার বাংলা থেকে এসেছিলেন এবং ফিরে যেতে চেয়েছিলেন, একবার দেখতে চেয়েছিলেন, আমার মা তার মধ্যে একজন, কিন্তু কোনোদিন সেটা পারেনি। সুপ্রিয় সেটা করতে পেরেছিল নিজের বাবা মার জন্য। আই এম শিওর আপনাদের অনেক কোয়েশ্চেন্স বা কমেন্টস থাকবে, যেহেতু আমাদের আরও একটা ডকুমেন্টারি দেখানোর আছে। তার আগে আমরা একটা টি ব্রেক নিচ্ছি, ফিল্ম মেকার ওখানেই বসে আছেন, আপনারা চাইলে কথা বলতে পারেন। থ্যাংক ইউ।
আমার তাহলে আমি তুলতে পারবো, অসুবিধা
দেখুন আপনি আমার জন্য আলাদা করে রেখে দিন, আপনি আমার সঙ্গে দিয়ে দেবেন। হ্যাঁ আমাকে দিয়ে দেবেন, এটা দিয়ে দেবেন, এটা কারণ
Hello. Welcome once again. This brings us to the third film of our film festival, or rather the way we would prefer to call it, Commemoration of Bengal Partition Through Films. And this is, in some ways, this is the day we were waiting for more than any other, which is that, you know, one of the unique feature of this particular event is that we are commemorating through films not just from West Bengal but also from Bangladesh, and our guests of honor are none other than Tanvir Mukammal and Akram Khan, who has already been here since yesterday. I cannot tell you how thankful and actually grateful to them we are, because they not only readily agreed to share their films with us but also to participate in the festival. And Tanvir sir in particular has been extremely generous with us, making things very easy for us on many counts and helping us and giving us support in every which way he can. And also actually connecting us to Akram Khan. It is through him that we could bring him. And Today is a very special day because we are, just after Shupriyo's extremely moving film, we are now going to see one of the latest documentaries on the partition of 1947 by Talveer sir. I do not want to say much because I would like him to introduce the film briefly to you. And before he does that, I just would like to give him a token of appreciation on behalf of the Kolkata Partition Museum Trust for coming here and being a part of this event. Thank you.
শুভ সন্ধ্যা। আসলে কালকে আমাকে বোধহয় অনেক কথা বলতে হবে ক্লাসের মধ্যে, ফলে আজকে আমি খুব সামনে বসেছি। 2017 সালে দেশভাগের 70তম বার্ষিকীতে আমাদের মনে হয়েছিল যে পেছন ফিরে তাকিয়ে দেখা দরকার যে বাংলা ভাগ কি আসলেই দরকার ছিল বা অন্য কোনো বিকল্প কি ছিল, এবং সেই হিসেবে আমরা এই সীমান্ত রেখা ছবি তৈরি করি। আমরা বুঝতে চেয়েছিলাম যে এই যে কাঁটাতালের বেড়া সীমান্তে, এটা কি বাংলাদেশ এবং ভারত দুই রাষ্ট্রের মধ্যে রাষ্ট্রীয় সীমান্ত রেখা, নাকি হিন্দু মুসলমানের বিভাগ রেখা, নাকি পূর্ববঙ্গ পশ্চিমবঙ্গের মানুষের মাঝে যে আচরণগত কিছু পার্থক্য আছে সেই বিভেদ রেখা, নাকি আমাদের মনোজগতে কোনো বিভেদ রেখা আছে যেখানে আমরা চাইলেও নিতে চাইলেও নিতে পারি না অনেক সময়। সেটা বুঝতে চাওয়ারই চেষ্টায় ছবিটি সীমান্ত রেখা, বেশ দীর্ঘ ছবি। আমরা বিভিন্ন জায়গায় শুট করেছি। আমরা পূর্ববঙ্গ থেকে যারা চলে এসেছিলেন বা আসতে বাধ্য হয়েছিলেন তারা কে কোথায় আছে, কেমন আছে বুঝতে চেষ্টা করেছি। আমরা বিভিন্ন শরণার্থী শিবিরে গেছি, ফার্স্ট ক্যাম্প, গতকাল নদিয়া, রামপুরি, ধুবুলিয়া। আমরা দণ্ডকারণ্যে গেছি, নৈনিতাল, আন্দামান, যেখানে যেখানে পূর্ববঙ্গের মানুষকে রাখা হয়েছে তারা কেমন আছেন। আর বাংলা ভাগ তো শুধু দুই বাংলাকে ভাগ করেনি, বাংলার সঙ্গে পূর্ববঙ্গের সঙ্গে আসাম এবং ত্রিপুরার মধ্যে বিভাজন ঘটেছিল। ফলে আমরা আসাম এবং ত্রিপুরার এই বিভাজনের ফলে কি প্রতিক্রিয়া ঘটেছে রাজনৈতিক, সামাজিক, সেগুলো বোঝার চেষ্টা করেছি। তো আপনাদের স্বাগত আমাদের ছবি দেখাদের জন্য, আসার জন্য সীমান্ত।